Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutchy Gaming, and a new video on the channel going further into my build for this league. I mentioned in the last video I was looking to work smite as a main skill, and I've tested it and I just really think the single target isn't going to be there on a budget. Even with a damage increase of what's probably going to be 75% more damage, I still think it's not going to feel good, and that's even on a 6 link. We have now had the patch notes in for Lightning Strike, and they were incorrect, and it has been buffed quite a lot in terms of the base damage. But there's lots else to consider when looking at whether it's as viable, how much better it's going to be. So that's what this video is going to go through today. So we'll quickly go over to the patch notes, and they've now updated it to say Lightning Strike actually scales now to 456% at gem level 20, and it used to be 225. So it's basically over double the effectiveness of the damage. It does lose the flat damage, which is quite a lot at gem level 20, and obviously goes up as your gem levels go up. We need to consider it also losing a totem. And then for champion, they've had quite a few nerfs that are going to affect both the defensive side and the offensive side of the build. But I think there are ways to balance everything out so that we end up with probably 20 to 25% more DPS and hopefully the same amount of defenses. So all I'm going to do is just talk you through how I went about testing it. I've punched all the numbers into POB and done the calculations that I think are correct to work out where the damage will stand. So the way I've got the character set up at the moment is essentially set up as if it was 325. So I'm not going to run a totem. We don't have Defiance banner. I've got no attack speed on my gloves, which makes up for the fact that we lose the attack speed from the ascendancy. I'm also running a level 7 determination and a level 11 grace. This accounts for both the nerf in the buff and the fact that in the ascendancy we now lose this 500 armor and 500 evasion. The only thing I can't make up without stuff on gear is cannot be stunned, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm only looking for this character to kind of clear my atlas, get my first 2 void stones, and then just farm a ton of gold, farm some currency, get stuck into the lean mechanic. I'm in no rush to go any further. What I want to do is get a build that's basically quick. The reason I'm sticking with champion is because I don't see another ascendancy that's going to give me the speed that I need. Raider obviously used to be a go-to. It's now Warden. Doesn't come with really any kind of help on the speed aspect of skills. I think it's going to feel really bad to league start melee on Warden because you're never going to get attack speed high enough to make the most of one of the passives. You're also not going to get enough crit to be able to always apply ailments. I think as a league starter, if you're league starting Warden, you're probably going to have to league start something that isn't the skill you want to play and then spec into it later. Champion, we get Adrenaline. We can get Onslaught once we get the Perseverance belt. We can then get increased effective Onslaught here. So there's loads of ways to get extra speed, and I think it's something that melee still needs. It didn't really get any help on the attack speed front. They've changed the animation so it's not as janky. So instead of doing one quick, one slow swing, it's more even, but it's still the same attack speed. So I don't think you'll be attacking any quicker. It just won't look as bad and won't feel as bad. But we all know what it's like to league start a melee build if you try from the off, and just the attack speed is horrendous. The damage is not going to make up for it, certainly on any skills that had added damage. The added damage helped a lot in the campaign because it meant you had less reliance on getting flat elemental damage on your gear. Now that Lightning Strike has had the flat damage removed, you basically have to make sure you've got better weapons because that added effectiveness is no good if you don't have that added damage for the effect to be added to. I will probably still switch to Lightning Strike around Act 5, but I don't think it's going to be as smooth and simple as it was last league. So what I'll do, I will just run through a map with this setup. Now this is realistically, I would think 30 to 35% weaker than it's going to be when the league actually launches. Then what I'll do is put on everything I've got at the moment in terms of put on my full grace, determination, put some attack speed gloves on. And that is essentially then going to be around 15% weaker than what the end build will be, just so you can have an idea of what it's going to look like if you decided you wanted to league start this build. So I'm expecting the first map to be pretty horrible because this is losing tons of armor and evasion, which means through perseverance we lose a lot of damage. We do still have flat damage on the gem, but I have made sure that I don't have any flat lightning damage of significance on my jewelry because that's where I would look to make up for this damage. So on Vaal Lightning Strike or Lightning Strike, at level 20, it's 9 to 179 added lightning damage, and that's essentially 2 deafening essence rolls on a ring and an amulet. So it's definitely something I can make up if I felt that I needed that flat damage. So we'll go ahead and we'll just grab a T16 map, as I will do. We will alch it. Obviously, we get any resistance and shock, so we're going to have to change my ascendancy or my pantheon. There we go. So this is also with 40% increased early resistances, so I'm expecting this to feel absolutely horrendous. Like, the mapping will be fine. It's just when it comes to bossing, I think it's going to be pretty slow. And obviously it's champion, so you've got to keep up your adrenaline. I've also got smite linked to increased duration and a mastery on the passive tree, so that we get around a 10-second smite buff. So it's something you probably don't need to activate when you're mapping, but you definitely want to do it when you come to a boss, because it's a ton of extra flat lightning damage, which again helps for the lightning damage that we lost from the skill. So we'll go and we'll find the boss. Down here somewhere, there he is. He's somewhere in this group of people, I think. There he is. So as you can see, the damage is pretty horrendous, but you're going to have, I would think, at least 40% more damage in this at league start. And we're going to have better defenses, I think. So you're going to be able to stand there and phase tank a lot of the stuff in T16 maps. That also had 40% increased elemental resistances. Blind on hit, I don't know if I was blinded. If I was, that means precise technique wasn't working either. So there's lots going against us in this map. So maybe I probably should have tested it in a white map. So we'll just go in and we'll try that, just so the test can be fair. So we'll see what maps we've got. I don't really want to do... I mean, we can do Jungle Valley. The boss is a bit annoying, but... so we're going to scour it this time, and then we'll see what it feels like. And as I say, this is, I think when I did the numbers, yeah, about 40% less damage than you would be doing. Unfortunately, with this build, you still probably do need to use smite on bosses. It's just such a big damage increase. It's like somewhere around 20% more damage. So you see, even essence monsters and T16s are absolutely fine. I also don't think my smite is max level. I think it's like level 18, so I'm missing a little bit of damage there, but nothing too bad. Right, let's just go through and find the boss. I just can't stop killing stuff because I haven't played this game for a while, so I'm actually quite enjoying it. Right, so we'll wait for this boss to come down. I also plan to utilize some of the nodes on the tree for like less mana cost, and then I may even take some of the dual wheel block nodes to try and get around 65% block. Oh, it's because I've essence monstered this boss. That probably wasn't a good idea. So this is definitely going to take longer. I'm doing good at these fair tests. Yeah, probably shouldn't have put an essence on the boss. But anyway, that's done. So we will log out. And then we'll go and put my full defensive auras on. We are going to see if I can find attack speed gloves. I probably can't. I'm basically going to put more damage on. And I figured out in POB, this is going to be about 15 to 20% less damage than what you'll be doing with new Lightning Strike. So we'll go and put our new auras on. We're going to put Defiance Banner on, and we're going to put the Totem on. And this is still going to be less damage than what you'll be doing in the new patch. So let's find my other auras. It's actually level 21 determination, so it's slightly higher, but... I also forgot to activate Blood Rage and that for frenzy charges, but hey-ho. So I think we have another Jungle Valley. We do, so we'll just scour this as well. Try not to do an essence monster so I can get a genuine idea of what boss damage is like. Stick Defiance Banner on. Put our totem on as well. Actually put Blood Rage on would be a start. You probably won't see that much difference in the mapping because the damage difference isn't that huge, but the totem on bosses gives you so much more attack speed. I think it's something like 15 to 20% more damage. We'll avoid the essence monster just so I can be fair. Here we go. Stick our totem down while they still exist. So then the damage looks a little bit better for junk gear on a T16 map. And like I say, the defenses will be good enough to do your normal Alkengo T16s. And the damage will be a little bit more. So I don't know how long that boss took to kill. Maybe like 5 seconds. So maybe knock a second off of that. So I'm pretty comfortable the build's going to be better than last league. And it's going to do enough damage for what I want it to do. I think the issue with this type of build is Lightning Strike looks like it's going to be really popular. So buying claws is going to be pretty expensive. So there'll be a few crafting videos. Because eventually I will either switch to Deadeye. Or we'll go, as I did last league, Champion, Crit, Claw. Because still the damage increase that we're going to have is actually going to be even more for that build because claws have been buffed. The Imperial Claw that we normally use now has 1% more base crit chance. So it means you can much easier get to 100% crit or close to it without maybe needing to use Assassin's Mark. So you might be able to then use Sniper's Mark to give more damage to your projectiles. So there's loads and loads of options. I'm comfortable league starting this. It's not a build you want to play if you want to rush, and it's not a build you want to play if you want your first build to do all 4 pinnacle bosses and start tackling T17s. This will do it, but not in the budget state that I want to league start with. But we'll come on to that when the build guide comes out. So I'll just run through the build to show what sort of gear I'm running. Now, this is stuff I had in my stash in standard, so some of it might be better than what you'd have at league start, some of it might be worse, but there's no items that are particularly good. So, as mentioned, I'm running just my level 11 Grace and level 7 Determination, which was in the first couple of showcases. No Ancestral Totem, no Defiance Banner. No attack speed on gloves, which I would have because I would want to make up for the attack speed that the Ascendancy loses. No massive lightning damage to attacks on the jewelry, because again, that's something I would want to fit in to make up for the loss of the flat damage from Vaal Lightning Strike. We obviously don't have any of the new life values that you get on gear, because it looks like you can get 50% more life on body armor. The belt was huge as well, so I'm expecting similar increases across the other items as well. The reason for the 6 white sockets is because I wanted to test smite and different things, and they all take different color gems. So I just thought a pretty bog standard 6 socket 6 length Astral Plate does the job. It's well behind the curve nowadays because you can't fit Eldritch Implicits in. I've got my reduced mana cost of attacks on the helmet, and then I've got my Vaal Strike on the gloves. But you could obviously just have the Vaal Strike here. So at the moment, I've got 2 additional strike. You really honestly don't need it if you're just doing T16 maps. So you could either drop this whole wheel here or not go through the hassle of rolling this on your gloves and just have a normal pair of gloves. The helmet is just, nothing special. Life, resistances. The amulet is some attributes and some life. And then, the rings are just attributes, resistances, and life. There's, nothing special. We'll get action speed on the boots, but nothing else really going for it. These have got ailment avoidance on them, but I'm nowhere near capped because I haven't got the rest of the gear to go along with it, so that kind of does nothing at the moment. We're running 2 Ichimonjis, and that's mainly just for the buff effect, because that's where we're getting all our damage from. Standard flasks, and then I have some very budget cluster jewels in here. So we've got a 2 passive Scintillating Idea and Storm Drinker, and then just Sublime Form. This is to be able to fit all of the mana in, but with the new tree in 325, there's actually a mana reservation cluster here. I'm also going to take the cost of attack cluster here and take the mana reservation, so you don't actually need any of this cluster jewel. You can still take it because it will give you more damage, but the idea for this build to try and make it a bit more tanky is there's more block nodes have appeared on the tree, so we're going to drop this completely, take some more block nodes and a couple more damage nodes, and I think the dual wield block should be up to about 65-70%. We'll have spell suppression at around 95. We'll still have some half decent armor and evasion. You'll have a 15 fortify. We'll have adrenaline, which gives you less damage taken. And we'll also have this taunt ascendancy here, which again is 10% reduced damage taken. So overall, I think the build's going to be plenty tanky enough for T16s, and it's got the speed to go along with it. No other jewels in at all. It's likely at League Start I'll have some sort of attribute change in jewel here, because you need, I think, 155 strength and 155 intelligence, or there or thereabouts. So you're going to need to get some attributes on gear, also on a jewel socket here. And then maybe you might want to take one of these just to fill you out. It wasn't too much of an issue capping my attributes last time, but you do have to give up a couple of points to do that. I'll most likely, in terms of bandits, go Alira. It seems like the worst option in terms of flat out value because movement speed is hard to get. But what this allows me to do, having 15% all res, and we get, I think, 10% from here, 8%. So you basically get 23% from Alira and the tree. It means that I'm not really heavily pressured to get resistance on all my gear, and that will then allow me to maybe aim for flat lightning damage and intelligence on my ring, flat lightning damage and strength on my amulet. It just frees up slots where I don't need to get elemental resistances. If gearing doesn't turn out to be a problem, I'll just go and switch and go Crichton and get that 8% movement speed, because that looks really strong as well. Mana cost is the only other thing to talk about, but as I say, I'm going to try and take some mana cost nodes on the tree. We're still going to try and get Elrion jewelry crafts. So inspiration has been nerfed because I think it's gone from reduced mana cost to less mana cost. So you're not going to get as big a benefit from running it. So it might be we swap this out for lightning penetration because that's going to be more damage. But they're things I'll probably play around with once the league launches. But just for comfort's sake, I'd go inspiration. The lower you can get mana cost, the better. We should end up with the final version with about 80 spare mana. And I would think the mana cost of the skill is going to be about 20. With multi-strike, you only pay once. So with mana leech and things like that, we've not really got any issues of ever running out of mana. The other option we have is we probably don't need to run a level 10 precision to hit our accuracy cap. You might be able to lower that a bit. Because I don't think I'd take the mastery here for the more accuracy. So it could be that if you need to free up mana, you take this mastery for an extra point, you lower your precision to like level 1. That gives you much more mana and makes it feel better when you're mapping. But I don't envisage having any problems with mana on this build. In terms of the cost of the build, last league, I got my Ichimundis very early. I think I got them on like the 3rd or 4th hour of the league. So I had to pay a little bit for them. I think they were like 5 to 6 chaos each. By day 2, these will be 1C. Perseverance, again, is a super cheap belt. I think I paid 5C for it on day 1. It then went down to about 2. You don't really need to worry about getting good rolls. For the Ichimundis, you want to try and get high attack speed. Nothing else really matters. And then everything else is rare gear. You do need a 6-link, I feel, to make it feel comfortable. You could clear your Atlas on a 5-link, and I think I did last league, but it's a bit slower. So you just buy a corrupted 6-link that's got the right colors. I don't think 4 red, 1 blue, 1 green is going to be that popular. So I think you're going to be fine getting it. We can also run any type of chest, really. We can run armor and evasion. Any of those 3 are fine. So I think get yourself the cheapest budget 6-link chest you can, and then you're kind of good to go. We're going to probably have essences on my Atlas tree, so we'll farm some essences. We'll farm some very cheap Eldritch currency, and that will get the gear finished. I would think if you rush, these are probably 10C for the pair. This is 5C. I don't know how much this might be, say 40C. So overall, you're looking at self-crafted gear and probably 60 chaos worth of investment, which you can get in an hour heisting at League Start, or you might be able to get it from sending ships off in the lead mechanic if you dabble early on. But that was my goal for this build. This isn't a build that I want to aim for the stars in this version. I want to clear my Atlas as cheap as possible because I don't want to be buying things at League Start that might cost me 2 divines and then 3 days later they're worth about 20C. I'd rather get a build that can comfortably keep me busy for 4 to 5 days while I clear up all my ats and the lead mechanic. Then when I go to look to progress this build into a crit version and maybe switch to claw and shield, then everything is much cheaper. So that's kind of my plan for this build. In terms of Warden, I just don't think Warden looks good at all in a League Start scenario. You get no speed, you get no defenses. A lot of the elemental nodes that are good need gear. You need to either attack really, really quickly or apply lots of different ailments with heavy hits. And in the campaign, you're not going to have any of that. I do feel it's almost going to be like leveling without an ascendancy. I just don't think it's going to feel good at all. I do think with gear, there's some really good potential builds on Warden, but as a league start for me, it's a definite no-no, but that's just me personally. That's it for me for this video. I would love to wait for POB to be updated to bring out a build guide, but I have a feeling we're not going to get the gems until the game actually launches. So I think we're just going to have to put together our best guess of what a POB would look like and what the damage will be, because I want to do the usual, put level entries in there, put plenty of notes in there. I want my league start guide to be really detailed and I don't want it to be rushed. So I'm going to start working on that guide today. Hopefully have it out by the middle of the week. I would just want to give as long as possible for, updates in patch notes, POB differences. Maybe we get confirmation of a few other things during the week. The longer I leave it, the more accurate the guide is going to be. I'm probably not going to touch on crafting until we're a few days into the league, because I want to know what's available. Like, how good are recombinators now? What are these new things that we can put onto weapons? Because it might be that the way that we crafted claws, well, league before last, because last league was in Necropolis, is just a very, very expensive and wrong way to do it, and I don't want that to happen. So crafting guides will probably come a few days into the league. I will be bringing out my Atlas tree plans and what I tend to farm and what I want to do to try and make sure I'm spending as much gold and time on the league mechanic as possible. That's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in following along in the journey, or you want to play this type of build, feel free to subscribe, like the video. It really, really helps on YouTube's algorithms. Take care and see you in the next one.